All right, Celtics fans, at the end of the day, I guess you could say that it was mission accomplished for your 2016-17 Boston Celtics as they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals this year and predictably so got destroyed by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, I have mixed feelings about this, and I'm going to try to kind of analyze their season as it were, both kind of looking at the successes but also some of the shortcomings and in a lot of ways, this team just confuses me. Like I always think that they're playing better than they really should be, and then at other times, I just think that they could even do better than they are doing. So let me explain as it pertains to the Eastern Conference Finals. No surprise, the Celtics lost in 5 games. Compared to other teams the Cavaliers have faced, the Celtics actually did a little better. They won a game in Cleveland that they really shouldn't have won, a game they were down by 22 points in, a game that they didn't have Isaiah Thomas for, and a game that, a million things had to go right for the Celtics to win it, but they still won it. And then in Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals, they built a 16-point lead toward the end of the half, and then the Cavaliers got back into the game, and predictably enough, they ended up winning the game in Game 4. And to me, that was the series right there, because then you're down 3-1, and of course, the Cavaliers come back and blow out the Celtics in Boston. So the series was over after Game 4, as far as I'm concerned. After Game 3, you thought maybe there was a chance. And that's kind of where this team gets frustrating, is that, no, I don't think they're better than the Cavaliers. But then again, I didn't think they were the number 1 seed either. There's a lot of stuff about this Celtics team where I go, there's no way they're going to do that. And then they do it. So, yeah, they shouldn't have beat Cleveland. They didn't beat Cleveland. So I guess that's not a surprise. Just how they got there was kind of frustrating. And the fact that 3 of those games were just absolute blowouts was frustrating. And again, I know that they're not as good as Cleveland. They don't have a LeBron. They don't have a Kyrie. They don't even have a Kevin Love. They have Isaiah Thomas, who was clearly hurt in Games 1 and 2 and was done for the playoffs. And, their other players are decent, but they're decent players on another team. Whereas Jay Crowder would be like a backup off the bench for the Spurs, he's, a number 1 option for the Celtics because, that's who the Celtics have. They have Jay Crowder, Avery Bradley, and Marcus Smart. Like you say that like it's some deadly trio, and it's really just kind of an okay group of players. The Celtics bench had some amazing games in the playoffs. They came up and scored big. Kelly Olynyk had a few big games. Even Gerald Green helped them out at times. So, there were some things to take away from the Celtics playoffs as a whole. It was certainly better than seeing them get smoked in the first round like has been happening lately. So the Celtics cemented themselves as at least an Eastern Conference contender. I don't want to really say that they're like a powerhouse because, as long as Cleveland's still a thing, I don't know if anybody's an Eastern Conference powerhouse. So the Celtics season as a whole, I thought it started kind of disappointingly, when you think about how Al Horford and, the Celtics kind of came together and, they're building off this 48-win season the year before. You figure, pencil them in for 50-plus wins. Now, eventually, that's what they ended up with, but, it was kind of a slow start. I can remember they lost the Nets early on. They had a couple of close games with really bad teams, and it just kind of looked like, I don't know, it looked like the Al Horford acquisition wasn't really making a difference. And really, you could argue that for most of the season. Al Horford himself didn't have an amazing season by any stretch, but the team did play better with him. I don't know if that was a direct result of him or just kind of confidence of having, a decent player on the team. But for whatever reason, the Celtics were better this year than the year before. They played better defense. They played better, all-around team basketball. They got big shots when they needed them. And speaking of shots, this Celtics team took a lot of threes. I mean, a lot of threes. And that would be great if you had Steph Curry on the floor, but you don't. And, the players you have aren't really three-point shooters, any of them. I know Jay Crowder had a pretty good season from 3. Al Horford has never been a three-point shooter until he came to the Celtics, and now all of a sudden, he's jacking them up. Marcus Smart, for some reason, thinks he can make threes, even though he can't make jump shots. Isaiah Thomas is probably the only one I'm comfortable with taking a 3, but I don't even think he needs to, just because he can get inside and score a lot easier than most on the Celtics. So why all the three-point shots? I don't know. It's not even that they're missing them. It's that they're just taking them. There's like no play calling. It's just let's run out and take a three-point shot. They don't take any time off the shot clock. They just brick a 3, and they give it back to the other team who runs by and gets a dunk. It's just easy points on the other end. But, again, this is just something that was going on all year with the Celtics. If they were playing a lousy team, it didn't really matter. But, in the playoffs, there were plenty of games where I was going, you could save another possession or two, if you just kind of thought things through instead of just chucking up a half-court three-point shot and hoping for the best. You know, you had those games like Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals with Marcus Smart hitting 7 of 10 from 3, but obviously that's not going to happen every game, and what a shock. He had like 5 points the next game. And that was kind of the Celtics thing, you know, whether it was Al Horford or Marcus Smart or Jay Crowder, there'd be somebody who would have a big game, one game, and then the next game would have like 2 points. And it happened a lot. Other than Isaiah Thomas and maybe Avery Bradley, like nobody was really consistent on offense. They were consistent on defense, which is good. You know, Marcus Smart was still the tenacious defender. Terry Rozier kind of stepped up a little bit. You know, like I mentioned, other players. Amir Johnson's pretty much useless. He was at least consistently terrible. But, you know, for the most part, you never knew what you were going to get night in and night out from the likes of Olynyk or Smart or even Jaylen Brown. You know, there were like these players who could have flashes of brilliance. And so that's why it's so hard to think about where this Celtics team ended up compared to where they should have ended up or could have ended up. I mean, this is a team that could have been like a 5 or 6 seed, and, you know, that would have been whatever, or they could be the 1 seed. So somehow the Celtics became the 1 seed. I think it's ridiculous that Brad Stevens isn't considered for Coach of the Year, just given the great job that he did and the great job he's been doing. But especially this year, getting this Celtics team to the number 1 seed in the East, that doesn't at least get you consideration. I mean, I don't remember who the finalists are for Coach of the Year. I imagine Steve Kerr and Mike D'Antoni or something might be in it, but I mean, no disrespect to them, but I think Brad Stevens did a lot with his talent. I mean, he got them to the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, I guess they didn't vote on it then, but even so, the Celtics team, you know, was a 50-win team, probably. He got them to 53 wins and the first seed in the East. Obviously, Cleveland kind of took the last month of the season off, so I guess they weren't really trying to get the 1 seed, but Celtics got the 1 seed. That's the end of the day. And one other thing I want to mention is that I have to admit that I am admittingly impressed with the rebuild process. I was skeptical of it. There's a video of me from 2013 and 14, you know, just questioning the direction of the team and saying that they had no chance to get any good players and they weren't going to be good for probably another 5 years. Well, obviously I was wrong. They're not great, but they're good, and they're ultimately more watchable than I thought they would be at this point. Isaiah Thomas was obviously a pleasant surprise, but also the fact that they're bringing along players like, you know, Olynyk and Smart, they've turned out to be better than I thought. Avery Bradley, who was, you know, a holdover from the old Celtics, he's still really good. He's got to be up there in age, though, because he was playing with Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce for a while before this new era of Celtics. But, you know, you still have Avery Bradley, who's kind of the veteran presence on the team. Isaiah Thomas, obviously, is great. Al Horford adding to this team, I thought was a good acquisition, not a game changer. I think if they do get Gordon Hayward, who is a name I hear about a lot, that would be more significant. I don't know how likely that is. I hope they do, but, you know, we'll see. If they don't, you know, this team has proven that they can still be a really good team without a big player. Obviously, you want them to get that big name player, but until then, you got to look at what you have. And all things considered, I mean, this rebuild process has gone about as well as you could see it going. You know, they went from being a last place team to, you know, a mediocre playoff team to a better playoff team and then a 1 seed. So, I mean, you can't really ask for a better step up in progression than that. You know, every year they've added a few wins to their total to where they're now, you know, one of the best teams in the East. I feel like they're not going to get the respect they should just because Cleveland is there, you know, and it's a shame. I've been mentioning this in the NBA for years that there's like these 1 or 2 powerhouse teams and the rest of the teams have to just look on and just go, whatever. So that's where we are right now. Another predictable NBA Finals between Cleveland and Golden State. And the rest of the teams just kind of scramble and figure out what to do before Cleveland and or Golden State adds another superstar player to their teams. So I don't know what the Celtics will do. I am pleased with the season they had. I'm a little disappointed in the effort in Game 5 when they were at home, kind of with a chance to at least make it a close game. I know the Celtics aren't going to beat the Cavs. I knew that going in. But I would have liked to see more than like a 40-point blowout and a 30-point blowout against a team. I mean, even Indiana gave them a better game than that. But whatever, I'm just getting into semantics. The goal is to win the title. The goal is to win the East and win the NBA championship. So, you know, whether you lose to Cleveland by a little bit or a lot, I mean, you still lose. So, you know, the next moves the Celtics should make will be the moves that get them to that next step. So we'll see how long that takes and what that will entail, but I am very pleased with how the rebuild has been going, and I don't even know if you can call it a rebuild anymore because, you know, the Celtics, in a way, have arrived. I mean, they are one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. maybe even one of the better teams in the NBA. So we'll see what the future holds for them. They have the number 1 pick in the draft, so that should be exciting. Whether they trade it or take it, that's a great thing to have. They never have the number 1 pick, so glad to see that finally came through for them. We'll see what else comes through for the Celtics in the future. Closing the book on the 16-17 season, this is Bobby Gaines. We will see you later with more Celtics talk.